Welcome everyone to Not That Media. My name is John and in today's video, as part of my ongoing series regarding For the Love of Horror, the upcoming Monopoly Events convention in October 2024, I wanted to spend a bit of time on this video going over one of the questions that I frequently see on social media. So come along with me as I try to answer the question, just how many guests can I meet in one day? If this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, firstly thank you, but secondly please do check out my playlist of For the Love of Horror after you finish this video. I've started this series of videos more as a passion project than anything, to document the guests that I'm intending to meet and also hopefully give some helpful hints and tips along the way. There's an introduction video which goes over a little bit of history of the event and goes over some of the frequently asked questions, and each week I've been trying to follow that up with a couple of guests, a couple of film recommendations for newcomers, because not every guest is necessarily known, and you might wonder who that person is and want to check out a few of their films. So I'm trying to do this range just obviously to inform as well as hopefully entertain as much. So please do go and check that out. I think the question you've got to ask yourself before I go further as well is, what is your primary goal for attending For the Love of Horror? Now that might sound like an odd question because it's a convention, you go to meet the stars, don't you? But that's not always true, and For the Love of Horror is a really big jam-packed event. When I spoke to the owner of the event when I was at the Comic-Con Coventry recently, he actually regards it more as a festival as opposed to a Comic-Con. It's one of those where it's not just a con, and this thing is continuing to expand and become bigger and bigger and bigger. So you've got to ask yourself, what is the primary goal for going? Is it just to meet the guests? If it is, great. The things I'm probably going to tell you will probably be absolutely spot on what you want to hear. Are you there to go through the merchandise with a fine-tooth comb? Are you there just to watch the panels? You don't want to meet, you don't want to pay to meet these people, but here's an opportunity to see these people for free at the panels. Well, not for free, but you paid your entry. You're under no obligation to pay to meet any of these people. The panels allows you to see them for free. Or are you there, and some people might find this surprising if you're newcomers, are you there to socialize? There's quite a lot of people who attend the event who don't actually intend to meet any of the guests. They might meet one or two if they're inclined to, but they're there to catch up with fellow cosplayers, fellow horror fans, family and friends who live at distant ends of the UK, who meet up in the middle in Manchester to celebrate all things horror. What is your goal attending? If it's purely for meeting guests, then you are in the same camp as me. So what I'm going to say now is the day is very fluid, but you do need to go in with a strategy. You need to think, okay, I'm going because I want to whatever it is. So the narrative that I am going to give you is based on the fact that I go to meet the guests. I go to meet as many of the guests as I can on my list to get a good number of photo opportunities. I always, and just before I go into my annual numbers, I always go to the merchandise stalls. I always check out some of the panels. I always go for the drink stand. I always go outside to get some food if I can. If the cinema's up and running, I'll go and sit and watch some of the cinema for 15-20 minutes. I will go to the stage photo opportunities, the like stationary photo opportunities that are set up, the set builds, that's what they're called, the set builds. I'll always go check them out. I do spend time meeting cosplayers, getting photographs with cosplayers and things like that. So I don't want people to think that, oh okay, if my goal is only to meet people, I can't do anything else. That's not true, but you've just got to keep the primary goal in your mind. So straight off the back, because I think it's important, because some of you, and I would sit there and say, well, who is this person to tell me what this stuff is? I've been attending For the Love of Horror since 2021. There's been 6 events, and this will be my 4th. In 2021, me and my friend Scream Queen Jarv, we attended with the standard pass, and that year in 3 hours, because we didn't go with the intention of being there all day, we went pretty much to check it out, and unfortunately because of COVID, a number of the guests we wanted to meet had cancelled. So we each had a guest that we wanted to meet. So between us, because we were together in the queues, we met 2 guests, each got 1 professional photo op. and spent time doing everything else. So with a standard pass in 2021, in 3 hours, we met 2 guests and each got a professional photo op on top of everything else on the day that I've just listed. So that was a pretty solid result. We were happy with that. Didn't really think it was a low number or a bad number, and we went home quite happy. The following year, 2022, was the first year I attended alone, and I attended with the primary task of meeting as many guests as I could. The Diamond Pass, for those of you who may not be aware, allows you earlier entry and allows you to go to a premium queue, and basically you jump the standard lines. You go up to an attendant, you tell them who you want to meet, and they take you to the front of the queue, and then you're effectively next. It's a fantastic way if you're like me, wanting to meet as many people as you can. So in 2022, in the space of I think about 7 hours, I think it worked out to, I met 13 guests and had 9 of the professional photo op take place. So a pretty full day. With the Diamond Pass, it has to be said that I met all those 13 people in the morning between 9:30 and 12. I remember texting my wife saying that it's a shame that I had the photo ops in the afternoon because I could have quite happily gone home. But that's not a bad thing. It was just one of those, like, it was a result, to be honest. The Diamond Pass made me fly through everything. I was well impressed. For 2023, which was obviously last year, I was there from, well, I'm always there early in the morning, but I was there when the guests hit the floor, which was 9:30, and I left about 4:45. And in that day, on top of everything else that I've already mentioned, I met 25 guests and got 5 professional photos with the guests as well. So 2023 was a massive year. With the Diamond Pass, by myself, the primary goal was to meet as many people as possible, 25. This year, 2024, I have rather deliberately scaled back a little bit because I do intend to vlog the event. And if you do see me, please do come up and say hello. I'm happy for you to be in the vlog, and all that kind of stuff. But I've got 20 guests scheduled this year. I've paid for 20 guests and 4 professional photos. So not as bad a year, or as big a year as last year, I should say, but certainly a slightly scaled back year. So if, like me, you are only there to meet as many people as you can and you still want to take advantage of everything else and take your time looking at other things, I would say reasonably between 15 to 25 people you could meet quite easily with a Diamond Pass. If, however, you're in a big group, you've got lots to do, and this is with no disrespect, I am a man in his late 30s. I walk a lot, I used to run a lot, I used to do many wolf runs and things like that, so I consider myself to be as fit as I can be, is what I would say. It is a lot of walking. It is a long distance. So if you are physically able to do, I'm going to say, I think it was something like 22 to 28,000 steps in a day, quite happily, then yeah, you could reasonably and easily with a Diamond Pass meet between 15 to 25 guests. So once you've seen who's attending and you've started to build up an idea of who you want to meet, one of the primary influences that will change the number of people you can meet in one day is, do you want to get their autograph or do you want to get their photograph? Now, when you get your autographs, you can get an option to pay extra for a selfie, but I'm not going to be talking about them in this comparison purely because I consider that to be part of the autograph process. If you've queued up to get the autograph and you paid for the picture, you're talking seconds extra. So I'm purely talking about queuing to go to the autograph table versus queuing to go to the photo table. Now, it should be said you can do both. You can do a mixture of both. I do a mixture of both. My favorite guests, I try to get their signature and their photo. So this is not me saying it's one or the other. It's pick a lane and you're stuck in it. You can interchange between the two and you can have a mix of them. But if you're there just to meet people and you're trying to get as many as possible, it is important to consider, is it a photo or is it an autograph? Both come with their pros and cons. With the autograph, it tends to be cheaper than the photograph, but the wait times can vary considerably. If you're lucky, you could be waiting minutes. If you're unlucky, you could be waiting hours. So if you're only there for a certain amount of time, or your primary goal is to spend time with friends and family, etc., you might find a good amount of that time is eaten into waiting in line. This being said, when you get to the autograph table, you traditionally get much more time with the guest. You get to ask them a question or two, have much more of a personal experience with that person, but much more of a one-on-one experience. And if their queue is relatively quiet, if you're lucky enough when it's quiet, you might find you spend a lot longer with them than you would normally. The autographs are also much more easily available, is what I would say. Obviously, the guests are there for the primary goal of signing autographs. They do attend the panels, they do go comfort breaks and lunch, and they do go for their professional photography sections. So you do have to factor in the fact that for the majority of the day, they will be available. So 75%, 80% plus of the day, they'll be at the table. So you're not as quite stringently stuck to a schedule because, oh, he's busy now, is he? All right, I'll come back in an hour kind of a setup. You've got much more freedom. But the one con which I can think of, the other con I can think of is you only get a signature when you go up to get an autograph. Some people are like-minded that actually they don't want to get anything signed. They don't want, they're not bothered about getting Blu-rays, posters, etc. signed. They just want to meet the star. So why would I bother wasting my time getting an autograph? Is a very real consideration. Moving on to the photograph side of it, it equally has as many pros and cons. One pro straight off the back is that you get the opportunity to have group photo shoots. So rather than, I'll give you my example from last year, although I met every single one of these and got their autograph, there was a photo op last year to meet 5 different iterations of Michael Myers. So in one photograph, I was able to meet 5 different Michael Myers. It was a very, very quick experience, which I'll touch on in a moment. But if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of time or doesn't want to spend a lot of time queuing up, depending on the combination of guests, you have the opportunity to actually knock a few of those guests out very quickly with a group shoot. However, photographs, be it group or individual photographs, can be more expensive, and predominantly they are more expensive. It's just part of the process, unfortunately. That's not Monopoly Events or For the Love of Horror trying to be greedy. The agents of the guests set the price, and you will more than often than not find that the price for the photograph is more than the price for the autograph. That's just the way it goes, unfortunately. You will be waiting less time as well, is what I would say is a pro for photographs. Whereas with an autograph, you can end up being stuck in a queue for a considerable long time. With photographs, once the guest has got into the photo area and the snapping begins, it is very militaristic. It's very fast. It's very quick. There's an attendant. When you get to the tent, there's an attendant who will take your bags. They will put you over. You go round. The whole experience, once you get to the front, can be about 45 seconds. So from a pro perspective, you will probably be waiting minutes to get to the front of the queue as opposed to potentially hours in an autograph queue. And once you get there, you will meet the guest. If you're very lucky, you'll get a handshake, a hello, how you doing? But it's very quick. So the pro is it's really quick to get through the photo area. The con is it's a very impersonal experience when compared to the autographs. But if you're only there to get quantity, that's a really good way of doing it. But you get much less time with the guest is obviously the factor there. The photographs are time locked as well. So one thing that you need to factor in is if you want your day to be a little bit more free and easy and you can just do what you want when you want, having several photographs lined up may find that your day is somewhat chop and changed in that, oh, okay, do you want to go and do this for the next hour? No, I can't actually because I've got to go and meet this person in 10 minutes. It's one of those where because the event obviously time locks all the photography, you may find that it can interrupt other experiences if you're watching the panels, or if you want to go outside and do something. If you're in the food queues, which can get very long, and then you look at your watch and you realize that the photo shoot is in 5 minutes, it can make it uncomfortable, not unpleasant, but it can make it uncomfortable because you're working to the watch as opposed to taking your time at the event. So keep that in mind. I mean, the biggest pro is you have a photo with the guest, which I know might sound a bit odd when we're talking about autographs, but I find personally I'm the autograph man unless it's somebody very special, and then I'll get their photo with them as well. But some people are, shall we say, unimpressed by signatures. A scribble on a bit of a Blu-ray, it's like, well, that could be anybody. Whereas a photograph of you with the guest is your evidence and your proof that you met that guest. You were there at that moment in time and you got to meet that person. So it's always a consideration, if you're out there, if as a fan you just want to get a photo for bragging rights with your friends and things like that, always get the the photo over the autograph. The big plus which photographs have over autographs, of course, is costume ops. Not every guest, but a good number of the guests will have an opportunity for a higher price to get a very special photo op. This year is no exception. We've had an announcement that Bill Moseley is going to be doing Chop Top. The Night of the Demons, Linnea Quigley and Amelia Kincaid are doing their costume op. It's always cool. So it's from a photo perspective, you know, if you want to meet as many people as you can, you should always factor that in as well. Do you want them just in their civvies, in their normal jeans and t-shirts, or do you want them dressed like the characters in the film? It's always a consideration, and again, that's a consideration when it comes to the number of people you want to meet, because the costume photo ops are always more popular than the standard. So if your intention is to knock out as many people as you can, you might want to think twice about paying up for the photo with the costume. So hopefully those pros and cons might actually aid in your decision to judge how many people you can meet in one day. As I say, photographs tend to be better, I would argue, if you only have the standard entry and you want a much more prescriptive time that you have to be there, you have to do that, and then the rest of the event is your own. However, if you have the Diamond Pass and you can afford to have a little bit of a mix and match and you have the time to do both, you might find actually that you want to spread your day out for the combination of autographs and photographs. There's no right or wrong way of doing it, but I would argue, judging by the way the photographs work and having observed the autographs, if you've got a standard pass and you only go for photography, you could probably easily, if you can afford it, easily meet 10 to 15 plus guests if all you want to do is just be in the photograph lines. Like, quite literally, there's 3 photograph booths. You can walk out of one and then your next picture could be at the next one, and by the time you've walked out of that one, it's the one in the middle. So again, you know, you've got to judge how much of your time you value. If you only want to meet 1 or 2 guests in the whole day, photography, autograph, it doesn't really make a difference at that point, but you do have to judge your time, is what I would say. Obviously, if you just want to get a couple of quick photographs and have the rest of your day free, then that's absolutely acceptable as well. If you're happy to queue for a couple of hours to meet that one star or that one hero you've always wanted to meet, that's equally as acceptable. There's no right or wrong. My opinion is not definitive. Everybody else's opinions are not definitive. We're all individuals and it's going to be different for everybody. But personally, I do think that if you only have standard entry and you want to knock out a good number of guests, photography might be the better route for you to go, but it is more expensive and it's less personal. However, if you can afford the Diamond Pass and you can afford to go backwards and forwards to these guests, you might find actually you can get through a plethora of them before lunchtime in a similar way I have done before. Again, it's each to their own. So I think that's going to do it for this video. Like I say, that there's no definitive right or wrong as to how many people you can meet in one day. It's all down to you and exactly what you want to do. If you are there with a group or with family and friends and you want a very leisurely, very calm, very open day to just do what you want, then you probably won't be able to meet that many guests, probably a handful at most. If you're like me and you go in with that kind of military hat on of, okay, I've got my Diamond Pass, I want to meet this number of people, I'm going to zip around the event, and then once I've done the business, I can then turn around and enjoy the con as it is. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's each to their own at the end of the day. If you've got the standard pass, you probably want to weigh up, is it easier to get a photograph where it's a bit more expensive, it's a bit less personal, but I've got a photograph with the star and I've got much more time freely available because I know I have to be at that point in time. I'm in and out, very, very conveyor belt effect. Done, great, next, onto that panel, and you've got more time. It's something you've got to weigh out carefully. I really hope that this has given you a little bit of an insight. It's a bit of a tricky subject to talk about, but I thought, why not give it a go? As always, really appreciate you watching my videos. If you're sticking with this series, do stay tuned. I've got a few more coming up. Lynn Shay, Shawnee Smith is on the horizon for my videos. If you have any ideas, if you have any questions, anything you want me to go through, do comment either on the Facebook page or do comment on my YouTube. Do give it a subscribe to keep up to date. And until next time, stay scared.